Good day, legends, and welcome back to Behind the Crime Scene, the channel where we dive headfirst into the darkest stories hidden in plain sight across Australia. Tonight's case is one that will rattle you. It is the kind of story that makes you question how well we really know the people we trust with our families. A story where a man who appeared to be disciplined, respectful, and devoted to teaching children became the architect of one of the most shocking triple murders this country has seen. And the more you learn, the more disturbing it becomes. Before we get into it, hit subscribe, give the video a like, and feel free to comment your reactions as you go. Trust me, you will have a lot of thoughts on this one. Let's start with the man at the center of it all, Kwang Kyung Yoo. At 51 years old, he was known as a Taekwondo instructor in North Parramatta. Parents trusted him. Kids trained under him. He bowed with respect, spoke calmly, and carried himself like a man who valued discipline and structure. To most people, he looked like a positive influence on children. But behind that surface, something entirely different was going on. Court documents and psychiatric reports would later reveal that Yoo lived in a fantasy world. Not a harmless fantasy, but a world built on lies and imaginary achievements. He sent himself emails pretending to be from important contacts. He told his wife he had high-profile business meetings with billionaire Gina Rinehart. He claimed he had Olympic qualifications. He walked through luxury homes he could never afford just to feed the illusion that he was successful. And that leads me to a question for you. How many people in your life exaggerate their accomplishments? It is common to meet someone who tries to look a bit more impressive. But when does exaggeration turn into delusion? And when does delusion turn into danger? In Yoo's case, these stories were not just lies. They were part of an identity he clung to, like a lifeline. A forensic psychiatrist later explained that Yoo used these fantasies to make himself feel psychologically secure. He did not feel successful in real life. He did not feel important, so he created a version of himself that looked impressive. But a fantasy only survives as long as reality does not crush it. The victims in this case were the Cho family, a family who trusted Yoo, a family who believed their child was safe in his care, a family who had no idea what this man was capable of. There was 41-year-old Min Cho, her husband, 39-year-old Stephen, and their 7-year-old child. They were hardworking, successful, well-liked, and financially secure. They represented everything Yoo wanted people to believe he was. And that is where the danger began. Prosecutors revealed that Yoo started thinking about killing the Chos 2 weeks before the murders. His stated motive was to, quote, get their money. But here is the shocking part. Even Yoo admitted later that he had no idea how he would actually obtain their money. There was no plan, no strategy. It was a fantasy born from envy and insecurity. And that brings up another important question. How far can jealousy push a person who already sees the world through a distorted lens? It is terrifying to think that simply being successful can make you a target to someone living in a delusion. In the 11 days leading up to the murders, Yoo visited the Cho family's apartment complex 5 separate times. CCTV captured him entering the area again and again, not once, not twice, 5 times. What was he doing those days? Was he watching, planning, selecting the moment? His behavior was deliberate, calm, controlled, not the behavior of someone in emotional turmoil, but someone preparing to act. Would you notice if someone drove into your complex 5 times in less than 2 weeks? Most of us would not. And that is exactly what makes this so chilling. Yoo blended in. He did not act strangely in public. He did not give anyone a reason to suspect him. But behind closed doors, he was rehearsing a murder. Now we come to the day everything collapsed. It was a regular afternoon at the Lions Taekwondo and Martial Arts Academy in North Parramatta. Parents arrived, Kids finished their classes. Shoes were taken off, bags packed, laughs shared. A completely ordinary day. But once the last family left, Yoo locked the building. Inside that dojang, meant to teach respect and discipline, he invited Min Cho into a storeroom, and there he strangled her. He then dragged her body into his office. But the horror did not stop there. The 7-year-old child entered next. Maybe they were looking for their mother. Maybe they were waiting for a ride home. This was a child who trusted him, a child he had taught, a child who had no reason to fear anything inside that studio. And you killed the child too. Now let me ask you, how does a 30, 40 or 50-year-old man take the life of a child he knows, a child who bowed to him, a child who followed his instructions? It is almost impossible to comprehend. This was not a moment of rage. This was deliberate. And deliberate murder of a child reveals a level of moral collapse that words barely describe. After the killings at the studio, Yoo did not panic. He did not break down. He did not try to hide. Instead, he took Min's BMW keys. He walked to her car, and he called his wife, proudly announcing that the car had arrived. He pretended the BMW had been given to him by his workplace. Think about that for a moment. This man murdered a mother and her child, got into the car he stole from their bodies, and used it to maintain a lie about being successful. That is not simply lying. That is a mind that has lost its grip on reality. Yoo then drove to the Cho family's Balcombe Hills home. He broke in, and he waited. When Stephen Cho returned home, he immediately sensed something was wrong. A confrontation unfolded, and Stephen fought with everything he had. He even managed to stab Yoo in self-defense, but it was not enough. Yoo stabbed Stephen repeatedly until he died. Head, neck, chest, a brutal attack inside the very home Stephen shared with his family. Imagine walking into your own home and discovering a man you trusted waiting for you. Imagine the shock, the confusion, the terror. That is the kind of betrayal that leaves a permanent mark on everyone touched by it. After murdering all 3 members of the Cho family, Yoo did not run. He drove himself home, called his wife and said, "I have been stabbed with a knife." He then drove to the hospital. There, he told police he had been attacked by 3 random men in a Woolworths car park. But detectives saw through the story instantly. CCTV footage exposed the lies in minutes. Why do so many killers think they can outsmart CCTV? It is baffling. At the sentencing hearing, Yoo refused to look at the Cho family's loved ones. He kept his eyes on the floor while heartbreaking victim impact statements were read aloud. The family said that since the murders, they felt as if they were dead. They wrote that their laughter had disappeared. Their days were filled with despair. One line struck the courtroom deeply. They said that their mother's vanity table is piled high with tissues soaked in tears. Min's brother spoke directly to her in his statement, asking how he was supposed to go on without her. He described their mother crying every single day. He said he felt torn apart, and one sentence struck everyone listening. He said, "I resent heaven. I resent it so much." Those are the words of a family crushed beyond repair. A forensic psychiatrist testified that Yoo's personality was grandiose, insecure, immature and delusional. He said Yoo created fantasies to make himself feel secure. He described Yoo as someone with limited insight and a fragile self-image. But even with these psychological explanations, one question remains. How does a man go from fantasizing to murdering a family? Yoo's lawyer argued that his client felt guilt and remorse, but prosecutors argued that his crimes warranted life behind bars. Yoo will be sentenced on December 16th. And now, after hearing everything, I want to ask you the bigger questions. What is more dangerous? A man who knows he is evil, or a man who thinks he is doing the right thing? Can someone's insecurity grow into something deadly when it goes unchecked? Could anyone around Yoo have seen the warning signs, or did he hide them too well? And here is a question I want every one of you to answer in the comments. If you met you before any of this happened, would you have spotted the cracks, or would he have fooled you like he fooled everyone else? If this case shook you like it shook me, hit subscribe, like this video and share your thoughts below. I read every single comment and I appreciate every viewer on this channel.